Today, the News Wrap.
We've just had a chat about the tragedy at Curtin where the roof of a building under construction came down. Sadly, we've had to follow this all throughout the day. Jerry Damassi broke the story on Simon's show this afternoon.
This doesn't sound good. There's a breaking news story. We go now to Jerry Damassi. It involves Curtin University, and we believe there's been some sort of wall collapse.
Hi, Simon. We're looking at aerials of the incident now, and it appears to be much, much more than a wall collapse. It looks as if the ceiling, the glass ceiling at a construction site at Curtin University, it's a new build, has fallen in. We have confirmation that one person has been killed and that one other person has been injured. The entire glass panel ceiling has fallen in on itself, and it looks as if a vehicle, some sort of construction vehicle, is directly underneath it and has been crushed. It looks to be an awful incident, and as I've just said, one person confirmed has been killed.
Damien Clancy was at Curtin when this happened. He's an organiser with the Electrical Trades Union here in WA and was on site to visit members.
I saw the glass and the steel collapse. I was probably standing about 30 metres away. Your reporter earlier mentioned that if it happened 5 minutes later, it actually happened at about 12:31 by my estimation, because lunch starts at 12:30. If it happened 5 minutes sooner, there would have been multiple fatalities. They were up on top of the steel structure, on top of the glass panels, sealing the joins between the panels. Whether they were using flashing silicon, I couldn't tell you specifically what they were doing, but I would describe their work as roof plumbing type work. There were two on top of the structure that I was aware of. I saw the structure come down, but I didn't actually see the men themselves.
What was that like, Damien, when you heard that? What was the sound like?
It was just a tremendous crashing of glass and steel. I couldn't liken it to anything else. I suppose, imagine if you were standing next to a huge steel skip bin, like literally next to it, and someone dumped a load of glass and steel into that bin. It was just a thunderous crashing noise.
Meantime, the CFMEU State Secretary Mick Buchan spoke to Ollie and said these kind of accidents should be preventable with good legislation.
Workplace fatalities, come on. Something's got to give, particularly in our industry. We're seeing far too many. We've got the most important legislation in Parliament at the moment for the review of the OH&S Act and industrial manslaughter, and yet the upper house hold it up with the Conservative Liberal Party. And, we need this legislation in there. We need something that is going to be a deterrent for design engineers, for developers, for builders, to stop these fatalities. Enough is enough.
Making other news today, there's some worrying new research shows there's a 50% increase in the number of Australians who bet more than 4 times a week. Tim Costello from the Alliance for Gambling Reform had a chat about it with Ollie this afternoon.
It certainly really devastates me, because I know that increase represents people not paying the rent, not putting food on the table for their kids. It represents, sadly, in some cases, crime. And also, and we don't talk about this much, it will represent some suicides. It's due to the fact that bored young men in lockdown are really quite antsy and edgy to just gamble and express themselves. It's also due to the massive increase in sports betting advertising. Unlike other nations that in lockdown acted responsibly, we've seen the sports betting agencies here massively ramp up their advertising. So you will have seen advertising in the news, on TV, and the MasterChef programs, just about everywhere. Apart from anything that's pretty disturbing for kids, because they're watching that stuff and it's mainstream and normalising sport, their heroes, and gambling as simply the two things that go together.
I've never worked out the attraction to gambling, so I'm the wrong person to comment on it. The only thing I have worked out is it's a mugs game. The reason the bookie drives the BMW and you don't is because the bookie wins more often than you. The reason why people will take your bet is usually because they believe the odds are stacked in their favour. Like I say, I just don't get it. It's one of those things that's designed to ensure that you will lose more often than you win. As I said before, I've just always thought it's a mugs game, but I'm the wrong person to comment because I don't get the thrill with it. Seriously. Maybe I don't have a sense of fun. There's a new West Australian study that could lead to a simple test which takes the guesswork out of treating mental health conditions. The research would use pharmacogenics, genetic profiling, to tailor medication mixes to individual patients. The head of Sir Charles Gardner's Mental Health Unit, Professor Sean Hood, explained it to Gareth earlier this morning.
This is a technique where we can take a simple cheek swab or a blood test to look at the way that your individual body, particularly your liver, breaks down the sort of medications that we're interested in. In this case, it's antidepressant medications. This profile sticks with you your entire life, so we can predict current episodes or future episodes. And essentially what we're doing here is we're trying to address the problem you mentioned in your intro there, which is that although these antidepressant medications are very powerful medicines and we know they work for most people, there's a significant proportion of people where we really struggle to find what the perfect match of medication is for them in that particular episode, that particular point in time and their particular sort of chemistry. And this study we're looking at doing can help us hopefully avoid some of those false starts and get to the medication that's going to give you the benefit in conjunction with our psychological and other techniques earlier, reduce suffering of yourself and your family.
Well, this has been developed, so it must be a case of watch this space, but certainly it does offer some great hope. Stories and more at 6pr.com.au. Ben Aylett joins us to talk technology. Oh, boy, we've got a story for you. Hey, Ben.
Yes, Chris.
I should point out his Hawaiian shirt, benaylett.com, 1L, 2 T's, and
That's right,
etc., etc., etc. But he now comes equipped with his glasses.
Yes.
That sort of, how can I put it, enhances the geek look. I do believe this is actually positive for your image, mate.
I think it might be. Well, look, I've been working with computers now for well over 35 years.
Yep.
And it's finally caught up with me of all this staring at a screen. My eyes didn't exactly go square like my mother threatened they would.
Yes.
They just didn't go as well as it's not bad. I think I've held it off for quite some time. So I'm actually quite happy that I've managed to get this far.
I was shocked when you walked in. I said, what happened?
Yeah, glasses.
I said, well, it's that time.
Yep.
And the odd thing is I can kind of relate to that time.
Yes.
When it does. By the way, if you have any technology questions, if your technology is giving you some grief or you want to know some information, etc., so on and so forth, this is a man to have a chat to.
Got the glasses
922 11882. Yeah. Can you see? Yeah.
Yeah, I can actually see.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah, I can actually read the screen at the back of the studio now, so that really helps. It's great. Yeah, so instead of guessing names and hoping that I get them right, I can just cheat and look at the big screen at the back.
Yep, 922 11882. Now, you wanted to have a look back on this day in tech history.
Yeah, this week in tech history, we've got a heap of stories to cover. But I'm just going to pick out a couple of notables that I think are quite significant. So, October 9, 1876, Alexander Graham Bell and Thomas Watson demonstrated the first two-way telephone call over outdoor wires. Then in October 10, 1980, we had Midway, the video game company. They released Pac-Man in North America. So previously in Japan, it was known as Puck-Man, and it wasn't as successful as they'd hoped until it hit America, and that's when Pac-Man fever took off. We also have another another video game story. October 8 in 1992, the video game Mortal Kombat was released into arcades. Probably one of the more, popular franchises when it comes to fighting games. Incredibly gory, quite graphic, and it's just a hell of a lot of fun to play.
But a lot of people got upset. Hey, I reckon you've missed one that's really important. Goes back to this week, October 7, 1952. That's effectively when what we now know as the barcode was invented.
That's right. So American inventors Norman Joseph Woodland and Bernard Silver were granted US patent, a huge number, is a classifying apparatus and method. So they just managed to work out how to encode information in a series of bars.
I love the way they do this. It was described as article classification through the medium of identifying patterns.
Yes.
That's what a barcode was originally known as.
Exactly, as an identifying pattern.
No wonder they went for barcode.
Yes, so in 1952, after 1952, they eventually sold their patent for only $15,000. Just imagine, because barcodes are now on everything.
Wouldn't you be just kicking yourself?
Oh, yeah. Well, barcodes were first used in 1966, and it was first used on, I think it was, a packet of Wrigley's Juicy Fruit chewing gum.
Really?
Yes. So no, that was the first item that was that was the first product that was checked out using a barcode. So we had barcode scanners on cash registers, and it was first scanned in 1974.
It's amazing, isn't it? They were first used commercially in the 1960s. Who would have thought?
Yeah. Yeah,
But of course, like everything, it's a process of evolution. It's not revolution.
That's right.
But when you think about it, the way it operates and what it does for people from all sorts of different angles makes something so convenient. How much easier would our job at high school when we were working in a supermarket have been if we hadn't had to put price tags on that had barcodes?
You get the hand cramps from the pricing guns.
Don't get me started. And then the tins where you had to go, kunk, 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 kunk.
Yeah.
And if you didn't hit them right, the price didn't go on right.
Exactly.
Don't start. The barcode made our lives so much easier, didn't it?
They sure did. And they gave rise to the QR code, which was a very useful piece of technology. So if anyone's not familiar, you can actually look up QR code on the internet, obviously, and you can also generate your own QR codes, which you can then put onto things like bumper stickers or on business cards. And your QR codes can do all sorts of things like send a text message for you. So you scan it with your phone, it'll automatically pull up a text message and populate that text message. You just press send and you're good to go.
Yep.
It'll send you to a website. It'll create a contact on someone's phone.
Right.
So very, very useful.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does it differ from a barcode in layman's terms?
Okay, so a barcode is like, okay, so the barcode, we're talking about our 128 code, and it's a one-dimensional code. So you've got a lot of vertical bars and of varying thicknesses and spacing between them, and you just scan left to right.
Yep.
QR codes are a 2D barcode.
Right.
So it's a series of squares and like squiggles and lines, and
which all mean something to the machine.
They all mean something. They're all encoded in a certain way, and they're decoded in a certain way. And that you can store a huge amount of information in a QR code. And they're also very resistant to damage too. So they've got a like a checksum or like error correction built into the QR code, which makes them incredibly robust.
That's incredible, isn't it? It's a great story.
Very clever.
92211 if you have any tech questions for Ben. We also specifically want to know a question about what you have received in the way of spam.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, and this has got nothing to do with the tin of that meat horrible stuff.
That you might have scanned at a checkout.
Yeah, well, that's it, with a barcode.
With a barcode.
That's been in use since 1970. Yes. Right, so specifically what are we looking for here?
Okay, so when we are looking at an email that we didn't ask for, so that's the first thing. You didn't ask for an email, it arrives. Now, if it's a...
What about the email that contained my power bill today? Does that count? I didn't ask for that, but it arrived.
Yes. Yeah, if you're expecting it, well, then a bit of a different story. But if it's unexpected, you look for a few signs. So the most obvious ones is when they have a link in the email and they try to get you to click on a link. It could be your bank, it could be Ozpost, it could be the police.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. If there is a link in the email, start treating it with a bit of suspicion.
Right, gotcha.
If you are at all curious, don't click the link in the email. Just open up your web browser and go directly to the website as you know you should. Another thing to look for are attachments. And a lot of these attachments are looking like another file. You click on it, it opens the file, runs the attachment, and it can contain malicious software. Very, very nasty stuff. So look out for links and attachments, especially if you didn't ask for those attachments.
G'day, John.
G'day, fellas. How you both going?
Good.
Very good.
Good. Quick one, Ben.
Yes,
and
mate.
I know I didn't back the system up, which was a problem. I lost a very important Excel file. I don't know whether somebody has actually deleted or the computer lost it. I can't find it. I've looked in the obvious recycle bin. Is there any way of recovering it? And it isn't a sort of day. There's probably 3 weeks. 3 weeks. It was, before I picked up, it was missing.
Okay. So, you used it last 3 weeks ago and you've only just noticed that it's not there anymore. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so first thing I do is I would search the computer. So there is a quick and easy way that we can search the computer for the particular file. Do you know the name of that file?
Yes, I do.
Yes?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so you're using Windows, correct?
Using Windows and an earlier version of Excel. It's an Excel spreadsheet.
Right, Excel spreadsheet, and you're using Windows 10 or something similar to that?
Yeah,
okay.
Windows 10.
Great. So you've got the File Explorer as a part of Windows. It looks like a folder that's sitting in like a little rack, a little blue rack. So you can click on that. It'll open up the File Explorer. You click on this PC, which will be on the left-hand side of the screen. Towards the top and to the right, you'll see a little box that says "Search this PC." It looks like a little magnifying glass.
Search this PC.
Search this PC.
Yep. So if you've opened up the File Explorer, look towards the top right-hand, I suppose, quarter.
Yeah.
And you should see that little window there that says "Search this PC," a little search box. You type in the name of the Excel spreadsheet you're after, and it will then run off and start looking for any spreadsheets named that. So there's that. So this is just if you've simply lost it, not deleted it. If you have deleted it, I would recommend going through your recycle bin. So do you know where that is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I've already looked there.
Okay,
I thought that was an obvious place to look.
Yeah. Look, this is actually very common. People do save things. And look, to be honest, Office 365 is not exactly intuitive when it comes to saving files. It just drops the files. Well, it seems like wherever, but it drops it in a certain place every single time. But then when you go to find it, you're looking in My Documents. You might not necessarily find it there or under My Pictures. And it's just tricky sometimes.
Beautiful, John. Thank you very much for your call on that one. If you'd like to have a chat to Ben, 922 118 882. And we also want to know about a piece of spam email that you received that might have been a bit deceiving, that when you looked at it, you thought, and you thought it was legitimate, and it was only because you looked a bit deeper that you discovered that, it wasn't actually legitimate, but it might have been something quite subtle that alerted you to the fact that it wasn't legitimate.
Yes.
And whether it was something contained in the email or whether you looked at the email address and thought, this doesn't add up. Anyway, 922 118 882 is our number.
The all-new Isuzu D-Max is reborn with 5-star ANCAP safety, including autonomous emergency braking, lane keep assist, and adaptive cruise control. Search all-new D-Max.
Whether you have a business in the back shed or plans to take on the world, you can always learn a lot by listening to others. But business being busy, when have you got time? Get great advice with the Let's Talk Business podcast and listen when it suits you. Peter Switzer and Mornings host Gareth Parker are talking weekly about the best ways to start, grow and manage your business. Let's Talk Business thanks to Officeworks, helping you make bigger things happen. Available to download at 6pr.com.au.
Stronger for longer. Count on Cooper tyres for long-lasting strength and deeper treads. Choose Cooper tyres for your car or SUV. They can last up to 2.7 times longer than other brands. Cooper tyres gives you the confidence to explore further with better value and an Australian-wide mileage guarantee. Visit coopertyres.com.au and compare the tyre mileage and savings for yourself. Cooper Tyres. Tyres worth owning.
2020. It's been challenging and especially hard for small businesses. Phones stopped ringing, doors shut, customers left. But to 2020, we say not this year. Because with funding from Prosper, it's time to fight back. Beat 2020. Get a fast decision on small business loans with funding possible in 24 hours. Prosper, Australia's #1 online lender to small business. Visit prospa.com. TC's fees and standard credit approval criteria apply. Australian credit licence 454782.
Right now at Apia, you can double up and save with our comprehensive insurance. Simply buy new eligible home and car insurance together before November 29 and save 20% off your second policy. Our dedicated specialists are ready to help. Call 13 50 50 or visit apia.com.au. Apia. Get set. Go. Terms and conditions apply. Apia is an authorised representative of AAI Limited, the product issuer. Before buying this insurance, read the PDS and consider whether it's right for you. Contact us for a copy.
If you're a fan of the World Game, join me, Rob Gilbert, with Michael Edgley for Box to Box.
Oh, what a goal!
2 till 4 p.m. every Friday on 9 Digital Radio NTS or later by podcast on radionts.com.au.
Absolutely fantastic!
It's your weekly guide taking you closer to the action with behind-the-scenes news from the domestic and international game, plus in-depth analysis from a who's who of players, coaches and journalists.
Box to Box for Chemist Warehouse, home of real brands and real savings. And Storage King, the kings of storage, moving and more.
Drinks delivered just in time for the first goal, the halftime break, or the grand final after party. Dan Murphy's delivers. Shop now at danmurphys.com.au. Conditions apply. Drink responsibly.
On 882 6PR, this is Perth Tonight with Chris Ilsley.
BenAylett.com is websites. 1L, 2 T's in Aylett. BenAylett.com. That's also where you'll find all of the contact information. If you'd like to have a chat to him now, 922 882. My friend, we're about to say farewell to something that people like to use. I do refer to Google Music. I'm guessing that given that Google also owns YouTube, that all of this is migrating in that direction.
Yeah, it is all linked. So, look, if you use Google Play Music, you can actually transfer it to YouTube Music, and you do that by going to music.youtube.com/transfer.
music.youtube.com/transfer.
Right, that's it. So what will happen is that it will automatically transfer all your music from your play.google.com or music.google.com account across to music.youtube.com, and it transfers everything. So this includes music that you might have copied from a CD, or legally owned or purchased through another system and then installed and uploaded to your Google
How does it
Music.
know? How does it know that I haven't loaned you my CDs and said stick them up there and you've got them for yourself?
Well, it just it assumes
takes you on face value.
Takes you on good faith. So if you've already got the MP3s saved on your computer or saved in Google Music, then Google's good enough to say, look, it's fine with us. And look, it doesn't have to be a paid YouTube account either. So you don't need to pay for YouTube Premium. You can go for the free
Aren't you going to
edition.
get smashed with ads, though?
You get smashed with ads only with streamed media that you haven't already purchased.
Ah, right. So if you upload this from Google Music, it won't happen.
I would expect so, yeah. So it would sound really bad if they just decided to play ads on music you've already purchased. That would suck.
It would suck. That's why I'm asking.
I don't think they do that.
G'day, Mark.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good.
Very well, Mark. What's up?
Listen, I'm on the horns of a dilemma and it's getting uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I've got a 2015 MacBook Pro and I'm going to upgrade.
Right.
My dilemma is, do I go and grab a version that's out there now that's got the Intel processor, or do I wait for the Apple Silicon processor?
Yeah.
And if I wait for the Silicon processor, will that run third-party apps that I can run now on my Intel machine?
Okay, so that raises a really, really interesting question about compatibility down the track. At the moment, we don't know, well, I'm not too sure, if you can run Intel applications, or applications written for Intel Macs on an ARM-powered Mac or like the Apple Silicon-powered Mac. Which applications in particular were you talking about?
Oh, look, put me on the spot and I really can't come up with anything off the top of my head.
All right. Things like Microsoft Office, I think will work fine because if it doesn't work natively on the MacBook, it will work as a web application. So that should work just fine. Other things like, I'm a little concerned about video games. Video games could be difficult. Video editing software, there might be wrinkles with that one as well, and also audio software too.
I guess the thing that's driving me towards the Silicon machine is I know I can upgrade my 2015 machine with Big Sur, but after the update that's coming out, or the new version of OS that's coming out, I don't know whether I'll be left out of the loop in that regard with further updates.
Yeah. Okay. So, look, Apple is still, they're making Intel-powered, they're selling Intel-powered MacBooks now. It would be really, really dumb of them if they were to, say, sell you an Intel-based MacBook now and then, say, 3 years down the track say, oh, well, too tough, we're not going to support it anymore. That does not fly. That is not going to work for them in any way, I'd imagine. So as far as software updates go, or Mac OS updates go, I'd say you should be safe for around about 5 years, which is about the benchmark that we're dealing with now with the older Intel MacBooks. They are still getting pretty decent support, but they do eventually drop off.
Thank you very much for that, Mark. And I've got to say thank you also very much for it's a very good call. Thank you also very much for yourself, Ben.
Oh, always a pleasure.
I appreciate it. The man is identified by his Hawaiian shirt, now by his very, very trendy glasses. BenAylett.com is a website. 1L, 2 T's in Aylett. That's where you'll find all of his contact information.
Up late?
John, since I've been listening to 6PR after midnight, I'm on the same shift now.
Our man John Lewis will keep you company through the wee small hours.
Your program needs to be entertaining, engaging and relaxing.
John Lewis keeps you company overnight.
Don't leave 6PR to get another job.
Okay, I won't, Les, thank you.
It's Perth's only live talkback show overnight.
Phil, take it easy, all right? Take it easy.
Yeah, thanks, John. Thanks, Simon. We're very lucky to have you come on the radio.
John Lewis, live from midnight tonight on 882 6PR.
Harvey Norman, your air conditioning specialists.